Hello, everybody. So I've been getting a lot of questions about the bid spreadsheets for the regional conference this week. And so instead of answering all of the individual questions and setting up individual meetings with everyone, I've decided to make this video that kind of walks through the bid spreadsheet. I'm going to explain what it means, how to organize everything, how to use the spreadsheet, and what it should look like whenever you turn it into me, okay? So I will go ahead and share my screen now so that everyone can see the spreadsheet. So this is what the spreadsheet will look like. You can see that it has all of the criteria up here at the top, which is what you're going to be evaluating. And then all of the different bids down at the bottom along the left-hand side. And then at the bottom, there's overall discussion points sections where you can just say overall about all of the bids and not one bid in particular. If you have something to say, you can just write it in here. So there should be 8 bids that you'll see from 8 different schools, and you're going to be evaluating each bid individually. So looking up at the top at the criteria here, it just says a section criteria met, yes or no. So you can go through, and for each individual bid along this row here, you'll put either a Y if yes, it meets the criteria, or an N if no, it doesn't meet the criteria. So looking at the first piece of criteria, page limit, it should be no more than 8 pages. The title page of the bid, so that cover page, and any citations pages, as well as this last criteria here of the job description, if done in the proper manner, does not go towards the page count. Everything else, though, goes towards 8 pages. So making sure that, yes, it does meet that page requirement. 10-point font. You don't have to go through and try to format the bid so that you can edit it and see what size font they use. Just make sure that whenever you're reading it, you're not having to like zoom in too far to read because it's so tiny. That should really always be a yes. Then looking at everything else, each point, I'm going to go through each point of criteria so that you kind of know what they're asking. Here, the nominee must be currently employed as a student staff member and enrolled as a full-time student at the time of nomination. So you're looking for somewhere in the bid where it says that the nominee is a currently employed student staff member and is a currently enrolled full-time student. Mentioning that somewhere in the bid, it'll probably be towards the front. If you can't find anywhere where it mentions that, then you can go ahead and mark it as a no. But kind of giving the schools the benefit of the doubt, if they're listed as a student staff member and they have a letter of support from their current supervisor, like here, then chances are they are a full-time student as well. So you can kind of give people the benefit of the doubt there, but especially if you see that it does actually explicitly say that they are a full-time student, they are a student, currently employed student staff member, you can go ahead and put a Y there. Next, must show involvement with their residence hall on campus and within other organizations. So on campus is especially the thing here. They must be involved, they must live on campus and be involved with their residence hall, and they also should be involved with other organizations, and that should be reflected in the bid. Show how nominee has encouraged community development. So that can come about in many different ways. There's no particular way of developing a community, but in reading the bid and looking at all the programs put on and how the nominee works in their residence hall as a student staff member, getting some sort of sense of how they show that the nominee encourages community development. Include list of floor hall activities in which the nominee was involved. That will usually come about in the form of some sort of table or chart, but it doesn't necessarily have to. So just looking at a list of all of the floor and hall activities in which the nominee was involved. A lot of these student staff members are resident assistants, community assistants, those sorts of things who are responsible for putting on activities. So any sort of list of those things as well will definitely count towards this. show outstanding service to their university and local community. So here, I really want to highlight this outstanding part. It really should be something exceptional and not just the ordinary, oh, they do what they're supposed to do because it's part of their job, but really something that's outstanding for their community. And that community will include both the university and the surrounding community. So if you find in the bid that there's really no mention of how the student staff member really gets out into the community and helps with service to the local community, then that might be a con for you. But the criteria is looking at the university and the local community together. It must include a letter of support from the nominee's current immediate supervisor. So you're just going to be looking for some sort of letter of support in the bid for that. Includes a letter of good standing. That's going to be pretty typical. It either has the letter or it doesn't. Yes or no. And then this last one. Includes official job description that is published by nominee's housing office, which shall be printed as an appendix and shall not count towards the page limit, provided it is printed in the same or similar manner as is regularly printed by the housing office. So what we're looking for here is basically a scanned or a PDF snapshot of the official job description that is put out by the university and is just inserted into the bid. What we don't want to see here is someone who is typing in what the job description is or something like that, because there's no way for us to really verify that that's the official job description. So it just needs to be some sort of legitimized job description that we can see, yeah, this is definitely from their housing office. Something like that you're going to want to look for. And again, these last three, it's really cut and dry. Either they have it or they don't. Not really much room for interpretation there. So moving on to pros, cons, and discussion points. These boxes are going to be chances. Whenever we are in boardroom going over the bids, we're going to open the floor. We're going to nominate all 8 of these bids to be able to talk about. And then we're going to move into pro-con discussion. And we're going to start in the nomination order. So if the first school that gets nominated is Oklahoma State University, they're going to be the first person that we do pro-con for. And so we're going to start with pro, then con, then pro, then con. It'll go back and forth like that until we have we either run out of time or until we have either 3 unanswered pros or 3 unanswered cons. And discussion is run after pro-con, and it's just time. So you can talk about any of the schools. Each school must be mentioned at least once, and we just have discussion. With pros and cons, usually they need to be no longer than 6 words. So try to keep them, it can be very choppy, like they don't have to be full sentences. A good pro can be great supporting details. That could be a pro, 3 words. A con can be, lack of detail on community development, something like that. So with these, what you're going to want to do is this column here, column F, will be if you're doing a pro, con, or discussion point concerning the nominee must be currently employed as a student staff member. So what your pro can be is, explicitly outlines student staff status. That could be a good pro. That it just very clearly says they are full-time student and they are currently employed. You may also have a con. You may not have a con for this particular point. You may not have a discussion point for this particular topic. That's okay. You move on to the next one. Must show involvement with their residence hall on campus and within other organizations. So here, you might have a con that says no involvement within other organizations. And that could be your con. So you type that in there. And you might have a discussion point that says for instance, if I were going to be the president of, we'll make up a university, SWACURH University. I'm the president of SWACURH University. I would say SWACURH University feels, So that way I'm not using I language, but representing my school. So SWACURH University feels that without mentioning involvement in other organizations, the nominee is less well-rounded than other nominees. That could be a discussion point for you because they didn't have this particular piece of criteria and that's important to you. So you feel that without this criteria, that there are other candidates that are just better for this particular award. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go through for each of these topics, for each of these areas of criteria, and either come up with a pro, a con, or a discussion point upon each of those. And you may not have any pros, cons, or discussion points for any. It's kind of hard to come up with pros, cons, and discussion points for the letters of support and letters of good standing. What might happen is if they don't have a letter of support from their immediate supervisor, that could be a con for you. And you can have a discussion point that says, you know, all of the other bids have this piece of criteria, but this university doesn't. So that makes, you know, SWACURH University feel that they are not an acceptable candidate for this award. That could be your discussion point. But, you know, you may not have anything for this particular criteria. It's okay to leave one of these blank. What I'm going to be looking for is, what are you actually saying? Are you saying something that doesn't have depth or quality to it? For instance, if you say, include list of floor hall activities, and your con is not in table format, well, it doesn't have to be in a table format. It doesn't have to be organized in that way. They can organize the information however they want. It just matters that the information is there. So I really don't want to see superficial things like that. I really want you to get deeper to what is the content of the bid and how is it presented to you. Not necessarily what format it's in, but, you know, do they use full sentences? Is there appropriate illustration of this candidate's ability to be the student staff member of the year? That sort of stuff. So I'll be looking at your actual comments, but I also want to see at least one pro, con, and discussion point for each bid. So for OSU, I want at least one thing in this row, one thing in this row, and one thing in this row. And then so on from there. OU, one thing in this row, one thing in this row, one thing in this row. You don't have to have each column filled. I'm going to be looking at the rows, okay? So that's how this bidding spreadsheet is organized. That's the criteria for the bid. I'll go ahead and exit out of here real quick. Okay, so if you have any other questions for me, or if you want to still meet, that is totally okay. I will definitely still meet with you and have a one-on-one and really go over the bid spreadsheet. If you want to email me your bidding spreadsheet and I can go over what you have there and give you some, you know, critiques on that and send it back to you, I can do that too. So I'm here to help. I want to make sure that y'all are going to be as prepared for boardroom as you can. So in that, please, between the time between now and conference, even at the conference, like on the Thursday, if you still have questions before we get into voting on Friday, please let me know. I'm here to help. I'm here to answer questions. A lot of you, this is your first time in boardroom. It's your first time looking at bids and voting on bids. And it can be hard. You know, it's a skill that you have to learn and develop. So please come to me with questions. Come to me seeking advice, all of that stuff. I'm here to help. I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope that it's cleared some things up. And if you like it, let me know and I'll continue to do stuff like this. So I love feedback. Give me feedback and I'll definitely be giving y'all feedback as well. So bye. Looking forward to seeing y'all in a couple days.